best games that take place on the territory of the Exclusion Zone, which arose after the terrible accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, including the legendary ghost town of Pripyat. Some games are devoted directly to the catastrophe itself. The action of others takes place after some time. Chernobylite, a first-person game that has become a pleasant and unexpected gift for all fans of the theme. It was developed by the independent Polish studio, the Farm 51. Chernobylite is a fantastic game that combines elements of a shooter, a survival simulator, and a role-playing game. The most remarkable thing in this game is a huge open and dynamically changing world, represented by the mystical and mysterious Chernobyl zone, which contains many unexpected dangers. It was recreated using unique 3D scanning technology, which made it possible to transfer real areas and objects of the zone around the Chernobyl to the screens. In addition to exploring the dark world, Chernobylite offers an interesting crafting system, loot collection, and of course, intense battles with unpredictable enemies. Stalker, Call of Chernobyl. The first game of the famous Stalker series, which popularized the subject of Chernobyl and stalking in the world of games and players. It is a non-linear first-person shooter with elements of survival and horror, telling the story of the Stalker Mart, who returned to the zone to restore his lost memory. The zone here is the huge territory around the Chernobyl, which arose as a result of the fictitious second explosion of the reactor. The zone is inhabited by other stalkers, bandits, various groups including military ones, supposedly protecting the zone from penetration from both sides, as well as dangerous mutants. There are also anomalies here, as well as mysterious artifacts worth a lot of money. Stalkers most often come to the zone in search of them. In general, the game turned out to be very rich and non-linear, aimed at research and experiments. Plus, she brought her unique stalker atmosphere to the world. All this gave the first part, and subsequent sequels, the status of a cult game in the post-Soviet space. Stalker, Clear Sky, the second part of Stalker, released in 2008. According to the plot, it is a prequel to the original, which allows us to delve into the general history and concepts of the characters and motives of the characters in more detail. In terms of gameplay, this is still the same atmospheric first-person shooter, focused on survival and exploration of a large, conditionally open world, filled with all kinds of dangers and random events. The game has new locations, mutants, anomalies, as well as groups with which the player will have to actively interact. Stalker, Call of Pripyat. The third part of the Stalker series, the place of action was again a fictitious, very extensive territory around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, filled with anomaly traps and inhabited by all kinds of mutants. The player acts as a military stalker, Alexander Dekhirev, who investigates the mysterious causes of the downfall of several government helicopters right in the heart of the zone. StalCraft. StalCraft is a mixture of Stalker and Minecraft, however, it is not a simple sandbox mod or a graphics update for a shooter, but an independent and free MMORPG that sends players on new adventures in the Exclusion Zone. At first glance, it seems that the game is simple, primitive graphics create a deceptive feeling. However, it has its own original plot. There are a lot of interesting side quests. The shooting mechanics are like those of quality shooters, and the large open world is saturated with stalker romance and dotted with anomalies, secrets, and interesting places. At least save interesting content, but don't forget about PvP, which includes both skirmishes between random travelers and faction wars. Chernobyl VR Project. An exceptionally atmospheric and realistic project for virtual reality devices, offering everyone a full three-dimensional excursion to the territory of the Exclusion Zone and, among other things, a wander through the deserted, dilapidated streets of the legendary Ukrainian city of Pripyat. The game was created, currently in the early access stage, by the Polish studio the Farm 51, which is very familiar with the Chernobyl theme and has enormous experience in creating games on this theme. It would not be an exaggeration to call the Chernobyl VR project a full-fledged virtual tour of Chernobyl, which is not only entertaining but also educational in nature. After all, in addition to seeing locations that reproduce in detail the real surroundings of Pripyat, in Chernobyl VR project players can hear tragic stories about this place, told by the voices of those people who once lived here and personally experienced all the horror of the Chernobyl disaster. Stalker Online, multiplayer game based on the notorious Stalker. It should be noted right away that it was made by completely different people who have no relation to the original franchise. As a result, the quality of the gameplay and environment is extremely low, as well as a very intrusive donation. After all, the game Stalker Online itself is free. As for the gameplay, this project is an MMORPG with an open world, where you need to complete quests, collect loot, fight mutants and other players. We repeat that all this is implemented at a very low level with zero optimization. It is perceived as an extremely raw alpha version of a budget action game from the mid-2000s, although the game itself was released in 2012, and in 2019 it appeared on Steam under the name S.T.A.L.K.E.R. It is noteworthy that it is in the early access stage. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, a very famous tactical shooter about modern combat operations with the participation of experienced fighters of a secret international special forces. The plot of the game is not directly related to Chernobyl and the accident at the nuclear power plant, but there is a legendary mission in it, in which one of the main characters and his commander secretly goes to the already deserted city of Pripyat in order to eliminate a dangerous militant there. A necessary militant with several hundred of his comrades arrives there to conduct an important classified transaction. For this reason, the terrorists surround Pripyat with a tight security ring in advance, and even drive heavy military equipment into the city itself. Captain Price, the game character of the mission, and his partner are forced to put on a mask and stealthily make their way to the place of the transaction in order to eliminate the target with a sniper rifle. Spintires Chernobyl, add-on for the popular car simulator, which offers players to ride a specialized multi-ton vehicle on the most extreme off-road areas in the world. DLC Chernobyl adds to the game a huge new Chernobyl map and two new types of vehicles, B-157 and B-505 trucks. These machines are intended for the transportation of felled trees and are equipped with all the necessary attachments, equipped with a Geiger counter to help secret loggers avoid the most dangerous areas of radiation contamination. Chernobyl Commando, a first-person shooter developed in 2013 by the S.T.A.L.K.E.R studio, specifically for PC. The plot and gameplay of Chernobyl Commando tell about the exploits of Special Forces officer Yuri Rykov, who is sent to the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone to the city of Pripyat, where he must prevent the export of radioactive materials, initiated by the militants of one numerous and extremely radical terrorist organization. Perhaps this setting is the only good thing that can be remembered about this low-budget and very mediocre shooter with disgusting graphics and crook shooting. Chernobyl, the Untold Story. Chernobyl, the Untold Story takes place in 1986, after the Chernobyl accident. The main character received a strong radiation dose and now cannot distinguish between a real nightmare and a delusion generated by his traumatized mind. Mutants, soldiers, destruction, Soviet post-apocalypse. Everything is mixed in this bizarre isometric game with shooting elements, dressed in stylish pixel graphics and accompanied by high-quality synthwave beats. Chernobyl, Road of Death. Atmospheric game with pixel graphics, which is a mixture of an old shooter and a roguelike. Chernobyl, Road of Death takes place directly on the territory of the Chernobyl zone already after the reactor explosion. Mutants, well-armed and disciplined soldiers, as well as the most dangerous, invisible, and inaudible enemy, radiation, await players as dangers. The game also has a plot. According to it, the reactor is threatened by a second explosion, which will be so powerful that it will destroy the entire planet. To prevent him, a secret operational group was created, of which the main character is a member. Each launch of the zone map is generated randomly, determining not only the location of enemies, but also the time of day and weather conditions, which also affect the gameplay. For example, the rain will bring with it deadly radiation, and the night will be shrouded in darkness. Good thing the hero has a flashlight with him and will activate mutants. Chernobyl Inferno. Creepy and very dark first-person survival horror. Not only does it take place in the catacombs of Chernobyl, where no normal person would go, zombies roam the corridors, or rather mutated and aggressive survivors. You won't be able to fight. You only have a flashlight in your hands, so you'll have to play the game in stealth mode, which reminds you of Outlast. The plot tells about a hero whose brother went to get material for a report in Chernobyl, but mysteriously disappeared somewhere in the catacombs. We know the idea is the same, but you'll have to go in search. Liquidators, a horror movie based on real events, which tells about 3 heroes of their time who did not run away immediately after the reactor explosion, but on the contrary, went inside to perform a mission to drain the water and destabilize the active zone. Relying on a Geiger counter and a flashlight, you, in the person of Boris Baranov, Valery Bespalov, or Alexei Ananenko, had to explore dark rooms, solve puzzles, and switch between liquidators so that they help each other survive. The game paints pretty scary pictures, the atmosphere penetrates to the bones, and it is hard to believe that this is a project of ordinary students. The only thing that betrays this fact is pixel graphics in the spirit of games of the 2000s, but this is not a minus. In addition, you can download the game for free on Steam. Escape from Chernobyl, a casual quest with lots of puzzles and static locations representing photos from the Exclusion Zone. The hero's task is to get out of Chernobyl by solving puzzles on his way. Everything is very atmospheric and fascinating, with the need to use one's own logic and ingenuity as much as possible. Escape from Chernobyl, Jailbreak. Continuation with exactly the same approach to gameplay and new puzzles. But if in the first part the main character was a scientist from secret laboratories who needs to get out of the dangerous zone in a limited time, then in Escape from Chernobyl, Jailbreak, the playable character, is the prisoner E308, who is trying to escape from a secret prison on the territory of Chernobyl, all of which are inmates at the same time. They are considered guinea pigs for terrible government experiments. Isotopium, Chernobyl. A unique game from Ukrainian developers that uses the so-called remote reality or remote reality in its gameplay. Its essence boils down to the fact that players control real robots on wheels in real time via the internet, exploring a miniature, artificially created version of the city of Pripyat, a kind of interactive model. All the action takes place in the developer's office, where a miniature version of the ghost town, recreated in the smallest details, is located. Chernobyl Liquidators Simulator, a realistic simulator for the PC offering to participate in the liquidation of the consequences of the Chernobyl accident. No mutants and anomalies, only merciless, all-pervading radiation. And because of this, the game seems even more terrifying. Realistic graphics and multifaceted gameplay are expected, where you'll not only need to extinguish the source of radiation, but also help local residents, cooperate with the government, or go your own, more open and vocal way, and so on. Radiation City, a mobile survival game that takes place in virtual Pripyat. The action unfolds 40 years after the accident, in the immediate vicinity of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, where the main character arrives in order to save a loved one from trouble, and at the same time reveal a couple of sinister local secrets, carefully protected by the government from the people. There are hostile mutants, soldiers, and stalkers in the game, but the level design of Radiation City, which amazingly reproduces in the smallest details all the main attractions of Pripyat and its surroundings, makes a much greater impression. Voice of Pripyat. This is another low-budget shooter on our list that goes, or tries to, exclusively on its setting. Voice of Pripyat offers players multiplayer skirmishes unfolding on numerous Chernobyl maps with mutants infected with zombie radiation and deadly anomalies. The funniest thing is that, despite all its inconsistency, Voice of Pripyat is also a paid game available on Steam. 5 classic competitive modes and a total of 15 different maps, differing in structure and size, are available to players here. Some maps even have controlled equipment. The variety of local weapons is also different, 70 models of guns, which are given to players as the level of the account increases. But as you know, quantity will never replace quality, which is at an extremely low level in Voice of Pripyat. In addition to weapons during battle, players can use various consumable items and artifacts designed to increase their effectiveness in battle. There is also a character customization system consisting of various masks, costumes, exoskeletons, and so on. Finally, there is a system of achievements, but all this, as already mentioned, is a trifle compared to the extremely inexpressive and secondary gameplay. Fear the Wolves. Online shooter from the studio Vostok Games. Part of the developers from this team previously participated in the creation of the legendary Stalker, representing the Queen's Battle on the territory of the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. The atmosphere in Fear the Wolves is appropriate, transmitted at 100%. Dark empty buildings, boasting of radiation contamination, mutants, and wild animals. The gameplay is quite standard for an FPS, based solely on the fact that the opponents are other players. But optimization is, to put it mildly, so-so. Many generally accuse the developers that they consciously released a frankly crude and hackneyed project. As a result, very quickly the overwhelming majority of gamers turned away from Fear the Wolves, and by 2020 it has almost zero online. After an hour of player selection, there may be 5 to 7 people on a large map, and that's good luck. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write in the comments. Thanks for watching. Join this channel to get access to perks. Subscribe channel, watch our other videos, press like, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.